So the Senior Director of Global Engineering at Abbott Nutrition told me that big companies get a reputation for being really bad when it comes to sustainability, that we always conjure them up as being the bad guys in conversations like the ones that we're having. His mission is to prove those conceptions or those misconceptions wrong and set the scene for what he's doing and his colleagues are doing at Abbott Nutrition. He says he's best at rolling up his sleeves, getting down to business. I'm wondering how that will translate to a flash talk. We're about to find out. Kevin Fessenden. Morning, Kevin.
Thank you, Fanny. I didn't realize I was going to be quoted last night when she was talking to me. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Chicago Council for having me here today and allow me to speak on what I think we obviously all consider a very important topic. And as an engineer, my day-to-day responsibilities are likely very different than many of you in the room. In fact, some of you may be asking, why do we have an engineer up here talking about water conservation? So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what we do in our production facilities around the world. And I promise I won't use any engineering equations when I do that. But before I go into that, I'd like to talk a bit about what we do at Abbott. So Abbott's focused on creating the future of healthcare and helping people live longer and healthier lives. We do this primarily through our life-changing technologies in the medical device space, diagnostics, our medicines that we provide, and our nutritional products. So nutrition is the focus of my business. And we make products such as Ensure and PediaSure. Some of you are probably very aware of these products. And we make other medical nutritional products as well. But our focus doesn't stop there. With over 100,000 employees worldwide in many facilities around the world, our reach is very global. And that's why this topic is very important to us. The truth is, water conservation is a big part of my everyday work and the work of my colleagues around the world in the production facilities. And whether it be using water for our sterilization of our products to making sure that we have high quality control within our products, or actually the water in the product that we use, it's very much an integral part of what we do. I'd like to start with maybe a story about a man named Peter. I had a discussion with him last week. And he talked to me about growing up in the 60s in a very poor country, one of the poorest on earth at the time. And he talks about how his mother used to go down to the river and fill up jugs of water and carry them on her shoulder back to the kitchen. And I know we've all heard stories like this. But it's etched in Peter's memory of why he doesn't take for granted the precious resource that we have in water. And now that he lives in the United States, not taking for granted just the convenience and the abundance that we have with a simple turn of the knob. In some cases, that simple turn of the knob, people think they can have all the water they want or all the water they need. But in some cases, that's not necessarily the case, right? Especially outside the United States. So it's stories like these with Peter where Abbott has really focused on driving programs over the last decade for conservation. We've done a lot of work in this area. In 2010, we took on a goal to reduce our water consumption by 30%. And I'm happy to say that as of today, we've saved 27% over the last decade. Now you may say, okay, what does 27% mean? What does that equate to? So if you take all the people in Washington, D.C. that live here, and all the visitors like us that come to D.C. over a 6-month period, that's the amount of drinking water that sustains all of us. That's a half a year. I think that's quite an impact for some of the efforts that we've brought forward with some of our programs. Our production facilities is a picture here of one of our Ensure production lines. And quality is the utmost importance to us. In many cases, we have customers that rely on our nutritional products as a sole source of nutrition, whether they're children or infant or adults. They rely on high quality. Many of these people have severe food allergies or medical conditions where the safety and quality is really important. And water plays a huge role in that for us. And as I stated before, we use water to sterilize our products to make sure they're safe, but we also sterilize our equipment through processes called CIP, or clean in place. And we leverage these technologies to make sure that our equipment is in the best condition we can to provide the best products we can. We've instituted many, many programs around the globe. And some of those programs start with the design and construction of our facilities. This is one of our latest facilities that we built in the last 5 years in Tip City, Ohio, which is outside of Dayton. In many of our facilities, we strive to be LEED certified, which is Leadership in Energy Environmental Design. And basically what that is, it's harnessing the natural resources around us, whether it be sunlight, looking at ways to recycle and reuse water, and making sure that we're very intentional in the design of our buildings to make sure that we're as optimized and conserving in many ways. And that really is all about culture and driving that culture throughout our organization. When I talk about programs, this is a picture of Brazil and Rio de Janeiro. And one of our sites there has a program called Less is More. And that program focuses on recycling water. And we use it for cooling towers and fire systems. We even use it for irrigation of our landscape around our facilities. Through programs like this, they were able to save 9 million liters of water. This same site in Brazil collects rainwater to the tune of 2 million liters. So for me, it's about the small ideas that really add up to make a huge impact. And it's ideas and programs like this that we've instituted around the world. And as I stated before, it's about driving a culture. And that culture starts with our employees at all levels. And while my focus is engineering, we work very closely with our partners in production, all the way down to the production floor. In Singapore, at one of our sites, 2 production workers noticed that a recirculation pump was running 24/7. And through some of the processes that we installed and making sure that people at all levels have a voice, they escalated that. We had our engineers go in and look at it. We were able to do some reprogramming and basically draw from that pump only when needed. And that sounds like a really obvious solution. But when you have very complex production facilities with hundreds of motors and pumps and pipes and tanks and control systems that could go on and on, it's very complex. And so having that strong culture at all levels of your employees and your organization is important because they are the eyes and the ears. They're on the ground floor, and they see how we're using water either efficiently or non-efficiently. So that feedback is very, very important. But we don't stop there. We don't just work within the walls of our business, and I think Will was up here earlier talking about how many of these big multinationals, it looks great on a report, but are we really getting out there and trying to do more outside of our production facilities? And we are doing that. We partner with local communities. In Casa Grande, Arizona, which is just south of Phoenix, we partner with the Abbott Fund and Project WET, which is water education for teachers. And we get out there into the communities. We work with schools and teachers and students. We work with small business owners and municipalities. And we bring our experts to the forefront to make sure that we're driving this culture of conservation and that we're leveraging the best practices that we use within our industry to make sure that the local communities where we work, where we live, where employees live, and the people that we serve that are gaining benefits from the technologies and the innovation that we're doing. Casa Grande saves 11 million gallons of water annually in that community due to some of these efforts. So before I wrap up, I want to kind of go back to the Peter story. Peter's a real person. I didn't make him up. I actually did speak with him last week. And I'm fortunate to say that Peter is a very talented engineer that works in my organization. And he travels the globe for Abbott, worked with many of our sites around the world, working on CIP systems, clean in place, and water conservation. And through his efforts, he was recently awarded the Abbott Summit Award, which is essentially a Lifetime Achievement Award for his efforts in this space. And it's the passion of employees like Peter, which is why Abbott continues to strive to do more in this space. And we're not done. We got a lot of work left to do. And we're going to keep driving that over the next decade to come. And right now, we're looking at our 2030 goals. We're leveraging the United Nations Development and Sustainability Goals. And we're taking on equally ambitious and aggressive goals to make sure that we continue these programs over the next decade to come. So for me, I think when I think about the success that Abbott has had, it really comes down to three things. It comes down to the technology innovation that we're trying to drive. It comes down to the culture that we're instilling in our employees. And it's working closely with our community partners to ensure that we're all benefiting from the good work that we're doing. And we put those all together, I believe we can make a real impact. So thank you.